Hi, friends. Welcome. How do you guys like my little intro deal? It gives y'all time to come on and, to find me. I'm trying to get my watch on here to find me. So I don't know. I was just trying it out. So let me know if y'all think it's silly. I won't do it again. I was like, ooh, new feature. So today we're talking about being tired of the BS, specifically the IBS, right? Irritable bowel syndrome. And irritable bowel syndrome goes by so many other different names, but we're going to call it IBS for the sake of simplicity today. Let me get this watch going here. All right. Welcome. If this is your first time, if I'm just popping in your newsfeed, hi, I'm Audrey Christie. I'm a functional and integrative nurse nutritionist and energy medicine practitioner. I help you heal. And I used to have like this whole big spiel. I help you to stop chasing symptoms and to get rid of autoimmune disease and chronic illness, and all that's still true. But it's just easier to say, I help you heal. I help you to stop chasing symptoms and heal for good, whether it is chronic stuff or acute stuff. I just reopened my acute appointments. That's actually a good time to tell you. I just reopened my acute appointments. So if you have a little issue that's been going on less than a month, that's acute, meaning it's happening right now. It's not chronic. It hasn't been going on a long time. Then you can hop on and get a little quick appointment. They are less than or about the same price of a copay. So like $35, I believe, is where we landed on that price. And it's for things like if you're sick or if you hurt your back or if your knee starts hurting all of a sudden and you're looking for natural and holistic ways, remedies to heal it fast that are tailored to you, but also, we might point you in the direction of a conventional medicine doctor as well if you need it. So definitely check that out. I had a lot of people saying, well, Audrey, I don't need the big chronic appointment with the whole thing. I just need to know like what to do with my earache, for example. And that's for humans 3 and up, right? So we can do kiddos 3 and up. Under 3, it's not really going to work. And if you're in the Root Cause Revolution membership, that if you join the Root Cause Revolution membership, you get one of those appointments free each and every month included with your membership. So between that and the saving 10 to 30%, 10 to 25 or 35% on supplements, that pays for itself because you're already buying supplements, right? So anywho, let's dive in, right? Okay. There is not a more BS diagnosis than IBS, right? If there is, I don't know, I may have said this before. There's several BS diagnoses, I guess. But here's the thing with IBS, right? You go to the doctor. You've been having diarrhea and mucus and flatulence, maybe even nausea, anxiety, things that go with it. You go to the doctor because it's been going on a long time, right? And it won't go away. And the doctor turns to you and says, well, we've ruled out ulcerative colitis, we've ruled out colon cancer, we've ruled out Crohn's disease, we've ruled out celiac disease. You have irritable bowel syndrome. And I'm like, no kidding, right? And when I hear this happening, I always say to my client, well, did you turn around and go like, no, I don't know, can I swear on Facebook? No shit, Sherlock. Like, I knew my bowels were irritable before I came to see you. That's why I'm here. Like, thank you, Captain Obvious would probably be a nicer way to say that, I guess. But, honestly, most conventional doctors don't really know how to get to the root cause of irritable bowel syndrome, or they don't have time to because of their model, the model of practice that we've sort of created here of, the herding in like cattle and herding out like a feedlot, just cycling people in and out. There's just not time to get to the root cause of IBS. So often they don't know how to truly help the body heal. They know how to mask the symptoms with medication, right? To mask the symptoms with antidiarrheal medication or anti-anxiety medication or whatever it may be, but they're not really healing the root cause. And when you continue to Band-Aid to cover, to mask the symptoms of IBS or IBS as a symptom, then the problem grows. Then eventually you do have some of those big things like the big 4 or 5 bowel and intestinal diseases that the doctor likes to rule out. So we're going to fix that today. We're going to talk about IBS or irritable bowel syndrome or mucus colitis, depending on what you want to call it. They are really common conditions, but they're not normal. I like to tell people that, like, don't feel like a weirdo if you have it, that PMS, seasonal allergies, IBS, any of this stuff. They're very common. Heartburn, acid reflux, but they're not normal. You're not supposed to have it. You're supposed to feel good. You're supposed to have nice, normal, healthy bowel movements. You're not supposed to be late to school, late getting your kid to school because you're stuck in the bathroom, or you're not supposed to miss a meeting or not be able to go out socially with friends because, 20 minutes after you eat, it's like prime time, run to the bathroom, or uncontrollable uh, abdominal pain and stuff like that. So IBS is really a common or a combination of symptoms generally, and they can kind of vary on the scale. You might have all of them, you might have one or two, but it's abdominal pain. It can be constipation or diarrhea, so either end of the scale, often going back and forth, right? Um, it can be abdominal pain. It can be, um, I can't think of the symptoms, friends. Anxiety, depression. It can be stomach cramps, if I didn't say that already, or lower abdominal cramps. So, oh, and gas, of course, flatulence, another way of saying that. Um, so there are other conditions that mimic IBS or that IBS mimics. The symptom of IBS can be involved in lots of other conditions. So I will say that it is important, if it's been going on a long time, to rule out things like ulcerative colitis, like Crohn's, like celiacs. But the interventions that we're going to do, healing it from the root cause, kind of work for all of those things, right? So unless it's been going on a super long time, you might try these natural root cause methods first. And then if it doesn't go away, then really explore some of the other options. Up to you. Now, a lot of times in allopathic medicine, they'll tell you they don't know what causes it, right? And you might have even been diagnosed with idiopathic IBS. And idiopathic IBS just means, I don't know what caused it, right? You have irritable bowels and we don't know why. We do know though, like it's known. It's so funny. I'm in kind of a weird mood. So somebody sent me an article today that a rather prestigious medical school teaching university put out, and it was an article that said we have. I can't even get it out straight. It was here. I'll look it up and show it to you. And it's a little bit off topic. It does have to do with what we talked about the last couple of weeks with diabetes. Okay, it says paradigm shift in the treatment of type 2 diabetes focuses on nutrition and weight loss. Like, this is not a paradigm shift. Like, we've known this for decades now, like eons, right? If you fix your nutrition, your blood sugar optimizes, period. And in fact, I've been doing some exploring with my own blood sugar. I'm not a diabetic. Never have been, never been close that I know of. When I was 100 pounds heavier, maybe there's probably, but I was never officially diagnosed with anything like that. But what I'm doing is checking my blood sugar, and with a little glucometer, I stick my finger and noticing what meals drive blood sugar up, what meals drive blood sugar down, noticing if my caffeine, my morning coffee, which is a reishi coffee, it's got reishi spores in it, noticing if that drives blood sugar up or down, stress driving blood sugar up and down, what does it do to my blood sugar when I fast until a certain time of day, or when I work out fasted. And it's nothing, there's nothing going on. I just like data, and I'm fine tuning some cool things and trying, I don't know, I'm messing with stuff, basically. I'm experimenting. So I'll let y'all know, probably early January. I want to do it for a few months, but I'll let y'all know how it goes and what it shows. Everybody's going to be different, so you can't take my results and expect to duplicate them. But I'll talk all about blood sugar monitoring for non-diabetics later, probably in early January. Okay. So back to IBS, right? We know that physiological, psychological, dietary factors, energy factors have all been linked for root causes to this condition. IBS as a symptom has its own set of root causes. So we're going to talk about a few things that you can do. Number one, oftentimes IBS starts at the top of the digestive system, or kind of in the middle, your stomach, right? The top is, you've heard me say before that digestion starts when you start to think about food. That starts the process in your mouth, mouth watering, your salivary enzymes start to get ready and primed to start breaking down food. And then it goes down your esophagus into your stomach, where stomach acid should be breaking it down. I stopped the chewing. I skipped the chewing part, but you got to chew it up first and then swallow it down. where stomach acid starts to break it up, right? It breaks it down into pieces so that it can then go down into your small intestine, which pulls out what it needs, and then it goes into the large intestine, which pulls out what it needs, and then into the colon, which is part of the large intestine, and whoop, out into the potty, okay? So with IBS, a lot of times the problem is up top, okay? And so up top problem number one that's really easy to check for is chewing your food. You would be surprised how much chewing your food actually matters. A lot of people, I'm guilty of this too sometimes, you're just like eating in a hurry, right? Like I have somewhere to be here shortly. And so if I have a snack, I'm probably like eating it out the door, halfway chewing it, whatever. Luckily, stomach acid isn't a problem for me. If it is a problem for me, then I would have problems downstream from that. Okay. So chewing, step one. Problem two, stomach acid. There's lots and lots of reasons why you can have low stomach acid. And it's generally a root cause for IBS. It could be parasites, toxicities, food sensitivities, allergies, energetic or psychological things, depression, lots of different things, the type of food that you're eating, the overall acidity and alkalinity of the system. But there is a simple and at-home test that you can do for it. It's called the Simple Stomach Acid Test. I've got a free download for it. audreychristie.com/174 will get you the show notes like for the podcast for this topic. And then you can listen to the podcast if you want, leave a rating or review. I'd love it. But you can also download any of the resources that I'm talking about here. So I have the steps to the Simple Stomach Acid Test. And it will tell you whether or not you're positive or negative for stomach acid and kind of some things that you can do. It's not a perfect test. The actual stomach acid test is very expensive, very time consuming, lots of steps involved, but this works and it gives you an idea of whether or not you're producing enough stomach acid. If you're not, then we start to look at things like digestive enzymes to help, right? We want to make sure that you're producing enough stomach acid so that the things that happen after the food leaves your stomach can all happen appropriately. Like I said, general root causes for stomach acid and for IBS, combination of things, physical things like parasites, toxicity, environmental toxin overload, food sensitivities, allergens, psychological things like anxiety, depression, high stress at work or home, all of those things can help. When I have clients come work with me one-on-one, and also in the Root Cause Revolution membership where we do it as a group, we do assessments, right? And for me, for one-on-one clients, each time you come to see me, I have a quick questionnaire and it helps us to assess stress levels because stress, real world stress is deeply connected to your gut health, right? And the motility of your gut. So it can enhance the motility, speed it up and shoot it out with diarrhea, or it can stop the motility in the opposite direction and cause constipation, both of which are signs of irritable bowel. So when you are constipated, you're stagnant, right? And this is, physically all the way across the spectrum to energetically, stagnation breeds sickness no matter what. Movement is medicine, whether that is sitting stagnation versus walking around is movement, whether that is your food moving through your body and your body pulling nutrients out of it, whether that is the general flow of prana or life force through your body. Stagnation breeds sickness, movement is medicine, okay? So you wanna make sure that stress isn't a trigger for that. The next thing I recommend are some labs. Now, we could do a stool test and all those things, but they're messy, and they're expensive, and they're not super accurate. So what I recommend is that everyone, if you have been diagnosed with IBS or you suspect you have irritable bowels, then a CBC and a CMP. So that's a complete blood count and a complete metabolic profile. They're not expensive, even if you have to pay cash for them. But we can look at those two labs, those two basic bits of blood chemistry and assess all sorts of different things about your nutrition status, right? We can see whether or not you have high or low stomach acid. We can confirm that. We can see evidence of parasites. We can see evidence of protein malabsorption, all sorts of things, right? And then we know what steps to take from there to address those root causes. We can also see if you need more or less fiber. If you need more fiber in your diet, we're looking at something like bentonite clay, or my favorite is psyllium husk powder, although that can be a little intense for some people, and other things to support a healthy colon. We want to make sure you're increasing dietary fiber. A lot of people are shocked that when I tell them they should be having 30 to 40 grams of fiber per day, and they're looking like at their MyFitnessPal, and they're like, "Holy moly, I'm not getting anywhere close to that." And you're probably not, right? Most people are barely getting 10 grams of fiber each and every day. Now, I do 30 to 40 grams a day. Sometimes I have to work for that 30 or 40 grams. But there's a noticeable difference on the days that I have enough fiber and not enough fiber. And I'm not just talking about differences in the bathroom. I'm talking about overall physical and emotional balance. I'm talking about energy levels. I'm talking about sleep. It only takes a day or two for me to kind of fall off the wagon, not quite have as much fiber, if I'm traveling or like my kids are gone for some reason. And so we're dining out a lot and doing that kind of thing. I see changes in my skin, my sleep, my mental acuity, and my alertness in just a matter of 2 or 3 days, right? So try that. If you're having 10 grams of fiber now, work your way up incrementally because you don't want to just grind your system to a stop with all that fiber. And then something to eliminate, right? So I've talked about things we're going to add, we're going to do at-home labs, we're going to do a CBC and blood count, we're going to add more fiber. But one thing you want to eliminate is foods that you are allergic to or intolerant of or sensitive to. So most people know if they're allergic to a food. Food allergy is generally something like peanuts, right? If you're allergic to a food, you have a swift and severe reaction and you're not likely to forget it. So it's usually really, really obvious if you're allergic to a food. Intolerant foods are a little bit harder to pinpoint because they look a lot like IBS, right? If you're having if you're eating a food that you're intolerant to regularly, then you have symptoms of IBS. You have IBS as a symptom. Your bowels are irritable. That generally happens 15 minutes to 90 minutes after you've consumed that food. Food sensitivities are a little bit sneakier. They can take 24, 48, even up to 72 hours to show the symptom that they create. And they usually just create small underlying little inflammations that build over time. There are tests that you can do, of course, for allergies and intolerances and sensitivities. One is a food sensitivity test, an IgG food sensitivity test. You can also do an IgA blood serum test for food allergies. But like I said, generally people know what food they're allergic to. Food sensitivity tests, I use them sometimes. You can find them on the show notes page if you want to order one. They are at-home lab tests. You just do a finger stick and then you do blood drops in order to test. They are a little bit expensive. They are accurate to the point of if you've eaten the food, then it'll show a sensitivity. So if I do food sensitivity tests, which I do them occasionally on myself, I do a drop of blood. I don't eat gluten and I haven't eaten gluten in 10 years or more now. So I don't show as sensitive or intolerant, or even if I do a serum blood test, I don't show that gluten is an issue for me because I don't eat it, right? There's not the antigen in my body for it to react to. So that is a little bit of a caveat there because people will take the test and go, "Oh, I'm not sensitive to gluten. I can have it." I always have to say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, pump the brakes. Did you have gluten in the last 6 months or more?" Right? You probably haven't. So that is something to consider. What I like to do instead is a step-by-step process called a food, mood, poop journal. And in that, you do it for 5 days. Sometimes I have you do it for longer, but you list everything that you ate by time. So, like at 7 a.m., I had a cup of coffee with a tablespoon of oat milk, right? You don't have to write I'll say a splash of oat milk. You don't have to write the amount. I don't care if you had a 6-ounce cup of coffee or a 12-ounce or a 16-ounce cup of coffee. I just care that you had coffee and then whatever you put in it, right? At lunch, you had a burger and fries. I don't care if it was a 3-ounce burger or what is it, like a half-pound burger or whatever, just what you had. I want to know if the bun had gluten in it. I want to know if you put veggies on it. I want to know if you use mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, that kind of thing. But I don't care about the volume. I don't care if you had a regular meal or a supersized meal. And then in the next column, you list mood, and mood encompasses all of your symptoms, right? So again, you're doing it by time. Mood encompasses all of your symptoms. So if you had your coffee at 7:30 and then you had at 7:15, you had a throbbing headache, or you felt anxious, or you were a little bit irritated. I need to know all of those things, right? Or your thumb joint on your right hand hurt. Those are things I need to know. And then in the last column, we're doing poop. That's the one everybody hates, especially when I'm working with teenagers. Like, I am not going to look at my poop. That's probably one of the most important parts. So I need to know if you had coffee at 7 and you had a headache at 7:30, and then at 7:45 you had a bowel movement, and then I want you to look at it and rate it on something called the Bristol stool chart, which is 1 through 6, loose stool all the way to constipated, right? And then we take a look at that information over 5 days, and we can pinpoint what might be, we can narrow down what might be triggering things for you and continue to find your food sensitivities. Now, sometimes we get to the end of that food mood poop journal and we still aren't sure, right? And that's when we might roll out the big guns and do the IgG food sensitivity test. In general, non-negotiable, we're getting rid of gluten and dairy, okay? Now, for IBS, in addition to getting rid of gluten and dairy, we're probably going to get rid of eggs and refined sugar as well. But the eggs can be temporary sometimes, unless it's a real problem for you. And then refined sugar, people think, oh, she's not going to let me have dessert. No, we're going to do better sweeteners. We're going to make cookies with honey, and we're going to use maple syrup, and we're going to use sugars that are less inflammatory for you. Okay. All right. And then, of course, I think I touched on this earlier, I think, because I'm going out of order from my list of things to tell you, but stress is a huge, huge component. I have had people that come in and they have IBS and literally nothing physically wrong except for stress. Stress caused every single bit of it, right? So addressing stress is a big, big component, and it's really important for you to build a toolbox that works for you, that can help you to mitigate stress, help you to work through stress if you can't avoid stress altogether. It helps you to learn to deal with it better. There's lots of tools on the website. Just search Audrey Christie stress on Google, and that'll pull that up for you. All right, last thing I want to talk to you about, because we're running a little bit over here, is foods to add for IBS. Foods to eat a lot of, okay? Baked apples, steamed or baked veggies of any kind, brown rice, beans, including peas and lentils as well. Caveat is you want to soak them, sprout them for 24 hours before you cook and eat them. And don't do canned. No canned. We're not doing canned stuff. And then potatoes. Eat potatoes. Yes. White potatoes, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. Enjoy your potatoes. Oats or oatmeal. You want to make sure it's gluten-free. And here's the key with your foods to determine if it's something that you should be having outside of what I've already said, gluten and dairy, right? But to determine if it's something you should be having, if it's healthy for you with IBS, it's called the Fork It test, okay? And I should have had a fork here to show you, but the Fork It test. And you are going to take a fork and mash that food. And if it mashes, if you can mash it with a fork, then it's probably okay for you to eat. It's not going to irritate your bowels further. If you can't mash it with the fork, then don't eat it. So here's an example. Carrots, organic baby carrots. Sounds like something healthy and that you should eat, but here's the example. You can't mash it with a fork, right? And so it's going to be hard for your body to break it down. So instead, what I want you to do is bake those carrots until they're a little bit squishy and they can be mashed with a fork. You could also steam them. I don't like steamed carrots. I like to roast them personally, but you do you, whatever works for you. Things that you might consider avoiding for IBS in addition to the gluten and dairy, and this is just to get started, right? Raw foods, like I said, raw carrots, that was my example. Hydrogenated oils, so things that come in a package, those Lar bars and all those healthy snacks, probably want to kick those to the curb for now. Super spicy foods, coffee, that's a big one, especially if you're drinking coffee all day long. I usually put people on an organic reishi mushroom coffee. It does have a little bit of coffee in it, but it also has reishi, which is an adaptogen, and it has spores, which help to repopulate the gut. And then you want to avoid alcohol as well. Alcohol is not really good for you on your healing journey at all. Also, side note, if you have access to aloe juice, that's a really good thing to take in the morning to help to soothe the gut. So here's the thing. If you only get one thing from this, I always like to kind of sum it up or to wrap this up. I want you to know that IBS is not permanent. It's not a life sentence. You can absolutely cure it. It's really not that hard. It's one of my favorite things for people to come to me and say, I only have IBS and my doctor says it's here for good. And I'm like, whoo, hot dog, let's fix it. That is a quick win for me and a quick, you know what, for your practitioner. So just know that if you Band-Aid it, which sometimes is necessary to get through life, but if you continue to Band-Aid it, it's going to you're going to continue to stack problems on top of each other. It's going to grow in problems and might cause something that's a lot harder to fix. Make sure you check out the show notes, audreychristie.com/174 for all the things I've talked about, any resources, and there's tons of resources there in general. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Comments weren't working today. Go figure. I don't know what's going on with the whole Facebook thing right now. Oh, I didn't notice. You can see my my donation bag. It's fall here, so we're cleaning out the closets and donating things. But so that's my donation bag, real life donation bag on my counter. It's coming out the door with me here just shortly, though. So be well, friends, and I will see you next week. I've been doing these at 2:45. Hopefully that's still working for everyone. If not, let me know. Maybe we can move them to the evenings as well. Be well. Thanks so much.